into like new stuff. And first things first, I want to get out there you can go subscribe to that for a good. But now we're going to jump into the podcast, and the first thing I want to bring up is the Bullet Club at Global Wars. Now, he joined it at Global Wars, and then since then we've got Adam Page join the Bullet Club too. What do you think of Adam Cole joining the Bullet Club?
I did not watch Global Wars. I mean, I usually try to keep up with ROH, and I mean, that was kind of a shocker to hear that Adam Cole, of all people, joined the Bullet Club, especially after just like recently getting kicked out of the Kingdom, I guess you want to say it.
Yeah.
But I mean, they just added one of the hugest names in ROH to their like group, along with Adam Page too. Yeah. He's also a pretty big name.
Yeah, I'd hate to say it, but it almost feels like they're trying to use Adam Cole to fill the void of AJ Styles. Like Kenny Omega, I don't think was enough to fill it. So they're trying to just get like these guys that have big names to add up to the prestige or the moniker or the honor that AJ Styles holds to his name. I think that's really why they brought in Adam Cole. Adam Page is kind of a throw-off to me. Like, I didn't understand that.
Well, yeah, I mean, look at the past, I guess, year or so. They've lost Devitt, they've lost Styles, Doc, and Anderson. They lost 4 of their biggest names that they've had in that group. Again. Because, yeah. I mean, it looks as though it's kind of dwindling down.
Yeah, I mean, Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks are trying to keep it held up, but they've kind of naming themselves the Elite, like, and putting that inside the Bullet Club, I don't think was the best idea for the name of the Bullet Club, because it puts more focus on the Elite instead of the Bullet Club name, especially since they've had their own YouTube channel and they're doing this comedy skit. And really, the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega are the 3 names left in the Bullet Club until, of course, the joining of Adam Cole into the group.
Yeah.
So, I mean to have the Elite name, I mean, it kind of just takes away from the Bullet Club, but more or less it kind of adds to it at the same time.
In my opinion, it looks like they're trying to focus more on those 3 individuals than the entire club in general. It seems like they're like separating themselves, and I'm hoping this doesn't happen, but it feels like they're gonna just like separate entirely from the Bullet Club, and they're not gonna be in it anymore.
Yeah, that would really kill off the Bullet Club, considering that those are the 3 big names left. Because I mean, who else do they got? They got Tama Tonga, Scott Hall's kid, Bad Luck Fale, and is that it? The Hujiro Takahashi guy, which I've never even seen wrestle. I don't even think he does, really. But, like, is that all they have left now until, like, the 2 signings, if you want to call it that?
I know that I don't know if you just named him. I don't really know the names of most of the Bullet Club members. But I know that former WWE superstar Camacho is in the Bullet Club, or was.
Oh, is he?
I don't know what he's called. I don't know who he's called, but I mean, yeah, he's in it.
Well, I know it's none of them, because I mean, Bad Luck Fale's been in the Bullet Club for years. I know it's not him. They don't even really look alike, so I have no clue what name he's going under, what ring name, but I did not know that.
I know he wears face paint. I know that's pretty much it.
Really? Is that Tonga Roa or whatever, Tama Tonga's cousin? They're not related, are they?
I have no clue, honestly.
Well, I don't think so, because Tama Tonga's Samoan, and that guy's not Samoan, is he?
Camacho is.
He is?
Yeah.
Then that might
Pretty
be
sure.
him. I didn't think about that. Then Camacho's in the Bullet Club. I did not know that. Well, look at where he went from riding on the back of a big bicycle with Unico to now being in the Bullet Club. Okay. Well, yeah, and then on to the next bit of news about the Bullet Club concerning them. Nick Jackson broke on Twitter that he is injured or hurt right now currently and is currently not wrestling and competing at the shows that they were signed for. So that really brings in the question to what are they going to do with Matt Jackson now until Nick Jackson heals.
Um, that's an interesting concept because they can either, I mean, like you said, they had the little elite within the Bullet Club, and they could be they could start pairing him up with Kenny Omega and keep going with the tag team, or they can go the completely separate route and they could start pushing him as a singles competitor, which
Yeah.
is something I don't think anyone's ever seen from either of them. I think they've been a tag team the entire time they've been
Yeah.
in wrestling.
Yeah, I like to compare them to the Usos, which they're not anything wrestling ability the same, but the Usos are completely irrelevant, like without each other, like in singles division, and that's kind of the same for the Young Bucks, I would say. So having Matt Jackson fight singles would be a bad idea. In my opinion, it would just hurt him right now as popularity. But pairing him with Kenny Omega, like if they had Nick Jackson still down in this corner, that wouldn't be a bad idea. 'Cause, I mean,
Yeah.
they're already in the elite group, so I mean, it would kind of make sense for Omega to team with them.
Hmm. I don't know if you know the answer to this, but I remember back when the Young Bucks were in TNA, didn't one of them go for the X Division title? I know they went for the tag team titles and never won them, but I think one of them went for the X Division, didn't they?
I don't recall either of them. Yeah, Max Buck and Jeremy Buck in
Yeah.
TNA Generation Me.
Yeah, that
No,
name.
all I recall from their TNA days really is their feud with the Guns, of course, because that was the only thing that was really like that memorable from their TNA run, in my opinion. But I don't think
Maybe that's what
either
I'm
of them
confusing
did.
it with.
I I don't think any of them.
I seem to
I don't think they
I
did.
seem to remember like a lot of like them double teaming one person and like making a statement a lot. But maybe I'm just confusing that with the machine guns. Like I could be doing that.
Yeah, because I don't think either of them were in singles action. But remember, like at that around that time, that wasn't that when like the X Division was like getting all weird for say, and like they're having random people come in and fight for the title.
No, that was
No.
back when TNA had a stable company, not what it has now. But
Okay, well I thought
I mean,
towards the end of Generation Me and TNA, I thought like that was when TNA was starting to like bring in like the old school X Division wrestlers and like throw them in at random, like Petey
no, I don't
Williams for
think so.
say.
I think that was like right after they left, but they were still in the part of the company that it was still stable. They still had the entire X division. They still had good wrestlers for the X division, and not just like 7 people. They had just 7 people that they're gonna keep showing, and then have random people just pop up. I think they still had the good roster back then for what they had.
Yeah, speaking of that, apparently I heard on Twitter that they're going to be doing something big tonight on TNA Impact Wrestling for the X Division. Did you hear what that could possibly be?
I did not. I had no clue, honestly. I knew that Galloway is facing Lashley with the title on the line, and I think there's a knockout title match, maybe. I'm not entirely sure,
Okay, well,
but I know the title match. The world title's on the line.
yeah. Eddie Edwards tweeted it out, so I mean, it could be something to do with Eddie. But Nonetheless, speaking of Galloway, the whole feud at Evolve's WWE Cruiserweight tournament, I believe that's being held at the Evolve shows. Anyways, well, this occurred during one of those nights when they're taping the show or whatever. Drew Galloway was fighting Johnny Gargano, NXT wrestler, one-on-one, and of course Drew Galloway being the TNA World Champion right now. Gargano had him in a submission. I can't remember exactly what he calls it. I need to know. He had Galloway in a submission move. Galloway is about to tap. Then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, EC3 comes in, breaks up the submission, and him and Galloway start beating down Gargano. And it later leads to TJ Perkins, coming out and saving Gargano. And it would later lead to a feud back and forth, or a promo feud back and forth, of them talking shit to each other. And it was very interesting because Galloway and EC3 started talking about how they weren't treated right, per se, in WWE, and that WWE and NXT is trying to kill pro wrestling, and it's a disease to the true pro wrestlers because they are quote-unquote sports entertainers, as Vince McMahon likes to say. And Galloway and EC3 would go on to talk about how they built great singles careers outside of WWE. And of course, Galloway being the current TNA champion, EC3 being undefeated for how many months? Over a year, I think, and then having him be a two-time TNA World Champion too. They've built pretty big careers for themselves outside of WWE, and then they come in and they attack an NXT superstar and talk crap on NXT and say that NXT and the WWE is basically a cancer to pro wrestling and that it needs to be stopped. And then it made absolutely no sense to me to have TJ Perkins, formerly known as Manic, formerly known as Suicide in TNA, come out to make the save for Gargano, a former TNA wrestler. What's your thoughts on this whole scenario?
Well, they do have a point. With Vince in charge of WWE, most people aren't going to make it anywhere unless you're one of those big, like, muscular guys that look like you can take on, like, 15 people at once. I mean, Galloway, when he first came in, he had the Chosen One character, and he did great. Now, I don't know who he pissed on or who he pissed off, but he became a member of 3MB, and his career went straight down the shitter until we got to TNA. And it's true when EC3 or Derek Bateman, when he was in NXT, it was still still under McMahon. It was under Vince, so he was just picking out the people that looked like they could do some of the greatest, or they were whatever, and they made them go through these ridiculous challenges every week. Nothing wrestling related at all, just like acting like trained circus monkeys.
Yeah,
But
I believe that's what EC3 said in the promo. They're circus
really?
monkeys.
Nice.
I think it was something like that. Yeah.
But no, I mean, I know they're just making these points, and they with these promos they have to go by what WWE, like, Evolve has to like talk to WWE about what the promos are going to be, so they don't like anger them. And it's in like NXT with like Triple H as its like head and it being his brainchild, it's expanded past what Raw, SmackDown, even ECW was. It's becoming something that you want to watch every single week, no matter what. And I've been rambling for a few minutes, but with Perkins, I did not even know he had left TNA until I saw a video on YouTube of him in the Cruiserweight tournament. And I guess since he's in the WWE like tournament, I guess it would make sense that he would come out and help Gargano against the two. But I mean, it's still it'll be interesting to see how they go because I think the next Evolve thing is next month is when they're going to be having their tag match, right?
Something like that. I don't know. I'm gonna try to find it though and watch it because that's really intrigued me.
Yeah. But we have at least another month of promos or whatever they're going to do to build up what this match can be, and it'll be interesting to see TJP see what he can do for it.
Yeah. Okay, now don't get it wrong. Galloway and EC3, you said that Vince wants the big guys. Well, Galloway is freaking huge. Like, don't get that wrong. And EC3 is pretty big in his own right. Galloway stands like 6'6", and he's pretty dang ripped in my opinion. And then EC3 the same. He's like freaking sculpted. But the thing is, Vince likes the certain people, and I've come to realize that like it's not even like really the big guys that he wants. It's just like a certain hand-picked people. Like for Roman Reigns, for instance, I'm gonna bring him up anyways. He's related to The Rock. In my opinion, that's the only reason Vince has him at the top is because he's related to The Rock. And I don't know if that's true or not, but I think the bloodline has a lot to do with it too. Just the fact that that Roman's related to The Rock, I think that's a big reason why they're up there. But yes, he does want his big ripped guys, and I don't understand why Galloway and EC3 got kicked out. I mean, I wasn't a big fan of Derek Bateman. I never even really seen him, so I can't really say much on him. But I always thought Galloway was a great wrestler. Yeah, sure, I didn't like his gimmick and I didn't like his persona at the time, but I thought he was a good wrestler overall, and to see him get fired was a little ridiculous. But then TNA's done the right thing with him, and I'm just how they're booking it right now is it's almost like WWE versus TNA, just inside Evolve. So now that puts the pressure on the shoulders of Evolve. Like this is gonna really give them some notice here, putting TNA versus WWE. That's really gonna help their company out for say. So what do you think on that? Like, what should Evolve's next move be after that? Is the question.
Invade one of the shows, and it's something everyone has wanted to see, and now we're finally getting it with Evolve. We have EC3 and Galloway versus Gargano and TJP, which I don't know if he's signed with WWE or if he's just, he's just in that tournament. So they just figured we have an ex TNA guy and we have these two.
Yeah.
We could make a good match. And I think that if they play their cards right, and this match blows everyone out of the water, we're going to see a lot more TNA versus WWE matches later down in Evolve.
Yeah. The problem that I have with this is, doesn't it seem like it's a little stacked? Like, I mean, Gargano isn't that big of a name, and then they're fighting like TNA's two top guys. So doesn't that seem a little stacked to you? Like T.J. Perkins and Johnny Gargano versus they don't really add up to Galloway and EC3 in my opinion.
Oh no, it's completely stacked. It's you have a world champion, two former world champions, uh, Galloway being a former, like two-time I think Intercontinental champion or one, and I think
Yeah,
a former tag team champion. And you have TJP with all of his previous accolades. I don't really know them. I don't know much about TJ Perkins before he joined TNA. And you have Gargano, who I'm gonna say this: I didn't even know he was still in NXT because I had not seen him for a long time. I only saw him that one time when he fought Joe, I think it was, and he disappeared. So I thought
yeah,
they fired him. But it'd be like I don't know what they're thinking entirely. Like this can be a great match, but ultimately I'm thinking it's gonna be TNA's. Like they're gonna go over. They're gonna make one over on WWE. They're gonna win because it's so much stacked. You have two people that have barely grazed the surface per se, and you have these guys that have reached world title level.
yeah. Speaking of the of NXT and TNA, NXT basically has like half the old school TNA wrestlers now, and I just want to talk a little bit about Eric Young debuting in NXT and your thoughts on if he's actually going to get signed fully, because right now, as far as I know of, he isn't signed. He's just doing appearances in NXT. He doesn't actually have a contract with the company. So do you think NXT will actually end up signing Eric Young? And if they do, here's the big question. Eric Young's getting pretty old. So now that leads me to wonder if he'll ever go to the main roster, or if he's just going to be in NXT.
Um, I think he's gonna do what they did with Rhino. They're gonna, if he does sign, which, like you said, I mean, I still have no idea if he signed or not. Last I heard, they had not signed him to a contract, and he's just, making appearances. If they do sign him, I think they might do a little what they did with Rhino. They're gonna have him in NXT fighting the title. He's not gonna go to the main roster. He's just going to be NXT promoting NXT and making that raise that bar up a little higher. Because I mean, though the talent down there is great, there's a lot of gaps missing. Because you have Joe, and we're about to lose Balor. He's going to be going to the main roster pretty soon. And you've lost Apollo, Baron, the Vaudevillains. You've lost all those.
Enzo and Cass.
So Enzo and Cass too, yes. I mean, there's some big gaps missing, so they need more like high quality talent down there to build it back up because they've lost a lot. Now, I mean, I don't know if you've heard this, but I heard that within the next couple of months by SummerSlam, they are planning to bring 13 NXT superstars up to the main roster.
Yeah.
And if they did that, they're really gonna need talent down there. So they're going to be trying to sign as many people as they can down there just to make sure that the product is up to par with what it has been. So they're going to be trying to sign Eric Young. I don't know if Bobby Roode has signed a contract, but they're definitely going to be trying to sign him.
Yeah.
And they'll probably be featuring Austin Aries a lot more on the show.
Oh, I hope so. I was gonna start talking about Austin Aries. Do you see him ever being in the NXT title picture? Because right now he, like he said in his promo, what was it, last week or the week before, he has kind of went under the radar. Like, I almost forgot Austin Aries was in NXT. So, like, what do you think they should do with him to bring him back up, like, without having him face Joe for the title?
I do see him in a title picture. Now, whether he'll ever fight Joe for it, I don't think so. I think Joe's going to be heading up to the main roster. With those 13 slots be coming up, I'm sure Joe is probably on the top 5 in that list of people they're sending up. And Aries has all the tools to be a champion anywhere he goes. He's been X Division, he's been Tag Team, he's been World Titles. He's had World Titles. Now, he's not as, I don't know how to put this. He's not the same since in every other thing he's watched, because WWE still has that concussion ban. They don't want any moves that deal blows to the head. So he has eliminated the brainbuster from his repertoire. He does the roaring elbow and I think the 450. And that's going to get pretty old.
Yeah.
So,
last bit of information before we wrap this up. Damien Sandow has apparently signed a match on Global Force Wrestling, which I didn't even know that was still a thing, to be honest. What's your opinion on Sandow fighting in Global Force? And not only is he fighting in Global Force, but he's fighting Colt Cabana at Global Force Wrestling at their next show. So,
well, Damien Sandow was one of the biggest losses in WWE. And he didn't do anything bad. He didn't step on anyone's shoes. He didn't rub people the wrong way. It's just WWE just they thought spring cleaning. They had no plans for him, so they said goodbye. So now he's moved on, and Global Force Wrestling I don't foresee being a permanent home for Sandow. I I'm pretty sure I'm pretty sure they're going to go under in a couple months anyway, because they are not doing too good. But wherever Sandow goes, whether it's ROH, TNA, New Japan, he's going to have the chance that WWE didn't give him. Because he was, at the ending of, like, before he was fired, he was so over with the crowd. They cheered him no matter what. And they could have did something great with him. They could have made him the next Intercontinental United States champion, but they didn't. They said, we're going to make you the fool. We're going to give you random personas again. Like, you're the Macho Man now. You're teaming with Axel because he's having his Hulkamania crisis. He just got banned from WWE TV or something because that whole issue from 10 years ago. So he's going to be able to take his talent to a company that will appreciate him. And he's going to be able to be probably the next world champion wherever he goes, in my opinion.
Yeah. His match with Colt Cabana should be really entertaining. I think it'll be a great comedy match, and they should flow well together. I did not know that Magnus is the Global Force Wrestling champion either, but yeah, maybe Sandow will get a match with him. But nonetheless, I think that'll wrap the thing. I think that'll wrap our podcast up for now. But nonetheless, you can follow me on Twitter at mainevent_Matt, and of course, go subscribe to my YouTube channel, Main Event second Ease of 3, and then Matt. So subscribe for there, and go check out my universe videos. And other than that, stay tuned for next week's. You have anything else to shout out?
No, I'm good.
Okay. And that's the end. Stay tuned for next week. And who knows what our topics will be next week. But that's the end of episode 1. Stay tuned for episode 2.